Welcome back to the weekend wrap. No production, just my thoughts. As always, please like and subscribe, share with a friend, a colleague, a relative, an associate, an enemy, any and all in between. It's appreciated. Now, apologies for those who would have been expecting basis picks this week and some other content. I'm not going to lie to you. I sat down on 3 separate occasions to do basis picks, and I just did not have the willpower or the drive to do it. Not that any of the fights this weekend were bad, but knowing my audience the way I like to think I do, there's very few that was truly interested in what was going on this week. Now, yeah, there's been other times when I have still gone ahead and done stuff regardless of the actual interest, but there was a couple other things I wanted to do. There was some other plans that I decided to put in place and execute, and just taking the time out to do the picks when not very many of you were going to watch them, it just didn't really make sense to me. But I wanted to cover everything at the end of the week like we do. Hopefully you guys watched Fight Talk live earlier on with myself and October Red. Shout out to October. That will be basically your segue into things that happened this week, for videos that I haven't done, but hopefully you guys watched and enjoyed that. And yeah, we're going to talk about, the cards that did take place Friday, Saturday, both the UK, the States, and also in Australia. There was quite a bit that was on, of varying quality, but that also being said, there was a lot of fun fights on every card. So yeah, if we start off with what took place on Friday. Now, this was on the Zone. It was an MVP show, but it was one of their most valuable prospect show. Now, not going through the entire card again, I didn't put any predictions down, but there was 2 fights on here that I actually did. I watched 3 fights in total, but there was 2 that I had my eye on from early. First one was Corey Marksman. I think he was facing, what's the guy's name? Luis Martinez. I think his name was Luis Martinez or something along those lines. Corey Marksman is one of the MVP prospect guys that I have been keeping an eye on. Sort of very flashy in character, a little bit Adrian Broner-esque, but just without the the demons and the lack of work rate. But he's still young, maybe when fame hits him, you never know, things could change. But exciting in the ring, got pretty heavy hands, very fluid in motion, can get caught at times, but he's sort of, his rhythm is quite nice, the way that he sort of can kind of stay in his own tempo regardless of what's going on around him. Fairly heavy hands, and he gets the job done. And he, like I said, he's flashy, fly, confident, but also, I won't say humble, but respectful with it as well. Like he's not just a straight trash talk or anything like that. So he's one of the guys that I was always keen to kind of watch when his fights are on. And yeah, this fight was no different. It was a really good fight. A good display from him. He got the knockout. It was a TKO stoppage. I think it was in round number. What round was that? I think it was round number 6 or 7. I think it was the 7th round. But yeah, like I said, as a prospect, he's a guy that I keep my eye on. So I want to see what he does moving forward. Shout out to him. Who else was on the card? There was Yoelvis Gomez against Edwin Humane Jr. I think the guy's name was. That was another one I was interested in watching. He got a majority decision. He was 8-1, and the other guy was 9-1. So very similar records. Which, to be fair, on the MVP cards, for the most part, they actually do pair people with similar records or against journeymen of a necessary level, especially like their prospect cards. So that's one thing I do like. I'm just trying to think. Those were the only ones I really paid attention to, and obviously Jean Paul Rivera against Daniel Bailey. Now that was a fight that I was looking at because I felt that Daniel Bailey had a good. He was like a sort of just a good temperament, a bit of a good all rounder, a slightly more pro experience at 15-2 at the time of the fight, but Rivera was like 12-0, so there wasn't it wasn't a huge disparity there, and obviously Rivera is sort of like the one of the up and comers in that featherweight division, but he had a couple of rounds early where Daniel Bailey actually was moving well, managing to make him miss and sort of catch him with the counters a couple of times, and he was putting up a pretty good fight. But Jan Paul, once he stepped on the gas and managed to find his angles and find his timing, Bailey was kind of just forced on the back foot and sort of forced that pot shot him from time to time. And there was a couple of times where he made lapses where for some reason his arms were just down by his sides, and that just gave Jean Paul Rivera the opportunities to basically exploit that and catch him with a couple of wild shots. And in the 6th round specifically, that's where one of those shots took effect. It was a brutal left hook, I believe. Yeah, it was a left hook which caught Bailey and knocked him down to the canvas. He managed to get up, and then he got caught in the ropes. He was trying to ride and slip some shots, but he was getting caught with some, tucking up. Not really. He's defending, but he's not really showing that he's still in the fight. And then in the end, the referee jumps in and calls a halt to it. And he definitely wasn't complaining. I think he was relieved that the barrage was over. But yeah, Jean Paul done his thing. He's 12 now. He is 13-0 with 7 KOs. So not the biggest of punchers, but he's got enough power to be credible. So yeah, apologies. So yeah, look, we'll see if he makes any headway sort of down the line, and if there's any 126s that we know that could maybe go in with him sort of maybe a year and a half from now. I mean, Nick Ball, I'm looking at you. Angelo Leo, a few others as well. So yeah, I guess we have to wait and see. So after that, moving over to the Matchroom show that was taking place in Australia, I only saw the last 2 fights on they only broadcast, I think, 4 of the fights. No, I saw 3 fights. Yeah, I think they broadcast 4 altogether. I saw the Alex Leopai Jr. fight, and I don't know I can't remember the name of the guy he was fighting, if I'm honest. So I'm not even going to try and pretend that I do. But he got was it a first round stoppage? I think it was a first round. Actually, let me get my phone. 1 second. Alex Leopai. I think that's how you spell it. Yeah, Alex Leopai Jr. So he was facing Tom Gepatti, who, and this is the one thing, he was facing this guy, but the guy was 0-1. So he'd had 1 pro fight before and lost that pro fight. Now look, Leopai Jr., he's a big lump. He's like 6'6", I think. No, 6'4", but he's like 275 pounds. So basically, just imagine The Rock back in the day in WWE when that was his build weight, 275. That's basically what Leopai looks like. He doesn't actually look fat for his size, but he's big, and you could tell obviously, he's a Samoan through and through, just thick set. But yeah, he got his guy out of there, but his record obviously at the moment, first fight it was a 2-1, second fight was 1-3, his third fight he fought a debutant, fourth fight was 1-9, fifth fight was a debutant, so 5-0 against a debutant, sixth fight was 3-1, and then this one 0-1. So at this point in time, there's been no one that they've put in there to really try and test him or believe that they got a chance to win. Possibly the very first guy. Maybe the debutants thought, well, we're starting off. There's no way, we've got nothing to lose. Let's go for it. But once you're 5-0, taking on someone that's just making their professional debut, it doesn't really scream the ambition that you need. Now, I know that in Australia, obviously the pool, sort of the gene pool at the heavyweight level is very it's not the greatest. They got a lot of sort of tough, durable guys, but there's just no one that really gives you the test that you need. And it's either you go straight to those, the proper journeyman, to then basically the guys that are kind of gatekeeping the national level, and there's no real in between in the two. So I heard Eddie Hearn say that he was definitely considering signing him. He could see a future with him in the stable. If he does that, that would be his third Australian heavyweight currently on the cards, especially after obviously who was the one that he got rid of? Dempsey McKean. So yeah, that was it will see where he goes, but he's 19, big lump, got a long way to go, but he looks put together, looks well built, looks like he can hold a shot as well. So Alex Leopold Jr., I'll be interested to see what they kind of do with him moving forward. Hopefully get him some opposition that will definitely look to fight back. Then we had Sky Nicholson on the card against Uvashi Singh. Sky looked about 2 weight classes bigger than the girl, to be totally honest. Now, this woman apparently hadn't lost in about 4 years and never been stopped before, but she just looked out of her depth. And I'm not even going to criticize Sky facing these undermatched opponents in that sense, if it means that she gets to work on some stuff and actually have a style of boxing that is pleasing to us. Because I said from long time, and I wasn't the only one, as soon as if she ever loses, her stock is going to be in the toilet, because she's just not a fun fighter to watch. So her, like some other fighters, their value is in their O, because without that O, there's got nothing else drawing from. Well, she's made some strides into trying to change her sort of her style, change her approach, be more aggressive, throw bigger shots, and she's doing that. Now, has she faced a couple of overmatched opponents in her last 2 fights down at 122? Yes. There's a lot better competition to get out there with, but 2 tune-up fights in quick succession, both of them are within the space of, I think, 2.5 months, 3 months. So, can't really complain too much. That's her 3rd fight of the year. Plus she wants to get another, I think she said that she wants another 1, maybe 2 if she can squeeze them in. I don't mind activity. So, if she's working on things, that's fine. I've got no issue with that, as long as, they do try and go for some better quality of opposition down the line. Some people are going to talk about, possible weight bullying, because now, because she had a lot of advantages at 126. She was taller than a lot of the girls, definitely had the longer arms, longer legs, same. And so now that she's gone down to 122, they're even smaller. But her frame isn't the biggest. Yeah, she's kind of lean, muscular, but her frame isn't that huge. So yeah, she might have a height and a reach advantage, but ultimately there are ways to sort of get around that and negate that. So I don't really hold too much weight into it. When she comes up against the top of top girls, we'll see if the advantage is still holding in her favor. And at some point she will get there. She was talking about going back up to face Tiara Brown, who, hopefully to get a rematch. I don't know if that's going to happen. I think that she would be better off trying to tell Eddie to pay over the odds to get Maëlie Flores in the ring. If she can get Maëlie Flores, at least at that point, then you've got a bargaining chip to make MVP put on a fight against you and Ellie Scottney for undisputed at 122 pounds. Going back up to 126, trying to get that belt back, yeah, it's possible that you could do it, but there's probably a lot more opportunities and a lot more of a deeper division for you to go after if you stay disciplined at 122. Yeah, if you want to float between the both of them is fine, but I would definitely say try to go after Maeli Flores before Ellie Scotney and MVP get the chance to do so. Because once you have that, at least then you've got a bargaining chip to bring them to the table. So yeah, look, we'll wait and see about that. Last fight on the card was Jake Wiley against what was his name? Something Dib. It was oh, that's gonna bother me now. What was the guy's name? Um, Youssef. Yeah, Youssef Dib. Good fight. Um, Wiley won. I predicted in my predictions league that he would. Um, it was a good fight overall. I didn't get to study it round by round, but it was it was a good fight from what I was watching. I think Wiley just had a bit more business, sort of from round one to round 10 when it finished. It was just he was just a bit more aggressive. Did work rate was just a bit higher. Dib landed a lot of good counters, but there was a lot of single shots in between. He was catching a lot of shots on gloves, arms, but some were still getting through. But just the volume of activity was just throwing it in Wiley's way. And yeah, look, he's did well up at 140. I guess we'll see if he stays up there. He was talking about coming back down to 135 pounds. We'll see. That's as much as I can say kind of about that at this moment. Then we went on to the Queensbury card, which took place in the evening over here in the UK. Now, I didn't watch the entire thing. I barely saw the main event, if I'm gonna be honest. Not because I didn't want to, but again, it was just one of those weekends where, yeah. The fights I did see, I saw. What's his name? I saw the Zach Miller and Leon Woodstock fight. Well, about 8 rounds of it anyway. It was a good fight from what I saw. Woodstock, tough, trying to come forward, trying to sort of wing away shots, close shots on the inside. Zach Miller, who was expected to kind of be more of a boxer move approach, actually stayed in the pocket and stayed mid-range a lot more in the fight than I think people were expecting. So give him props for that. Yeah, and it was just a pretty good fight there. Nelson Burchell faced Federico Sebastian Pedraza. That fight I didn't actually get to see, but I know that he won that one. I think it was a KO. So shout out to him. Henry Turner also got a KO against Ivan Blazovic. Again, one I didn't see, but I did see Jack Turner, against Nicholas Augustin Muguruza. That was a good fight for both of them. Muguruza came over with a lot of support. 11-0 record, same as Jack Turner. Big puncher, voted from I think it was Argentina. Let me check. Is he Argentinian? Same as same as Jack. Six KOs in his 11 victories. Obviously Jack, I believe, was he was 10 in his 11. So yeah, it was just it was another fun fight. Jack Turner got the victory, I believe, in the 6th round. But it was back and forth, and Muguruza did what he could for the first half of the fight to sort of make it competitive, but Jack just chipped away, and then ultimately it was I can't remember what shot it was that started it, but I remember it was a shot that I'm not gonna say it was a lucky shot, but he was fortunate that he was able the shot was able to get through at that particular time, because it was like a lapse in concentration from Muguruza, but it didn't look like the type of shot where Jack had actually timed it to perfection. So yeah, look, it was a fine performance for him. He moves on 12-0 now with 11 KOs. It'll be interesting to see what he kind of does next. Now, Jack Rafferty against Mark Chamberlain. When I did my predictions league, I think I predicted that Rafferty would get I think I put it down as a split decision. And look, it was, again, because I didn't see the entire fight, I can't comment on it like, breakdown by breakdown. But Rafferty did well, like Chamberlain did well. It did look like a nip and tuck type fight, sort of it could swing this way, swing that way. And I think the scorecards are very reflective of that. 114, 115, Mark Chamberlain, and then the other two are 114, 114 apiece, which I can't really argue with from what I saw. It did look like it was, back and forth. One guy's on top of the action, and another guy's on gets on top of the action, and just sort of, but like they're just basically swapping. It's like they're throwing the ball to each other. Like, okay, you catch the ball, now you catch the ball. That's kind of how it seemed. So it was a draw. Let's see if they decide to run it back. It would be interesting if they do that, or if they go their separate ways and say, well, neither of us lost, so our stock hasn't dropped and we had a good fight. Yeah, I guess we'll just have to kind of wait and see and figure out what is going to shape up there. Now, the last one was the MVP inaugural fight night card. So it's their first fight card that takes place on a Saturday with their with their stable, of the actual people on the MVP banner. Now, the prelims alone on this card was actually, if you know the people or if you've been watching like the MVP journey, the prelims themselves were quite stacked. I mean, you had Nat No Love Dove on there, who obviously was coming off of that draw that she had with Nayeli Rodriguez in her last fight. She was facing Randy Lynn Morales in this one, and she got a stoppage in the 5th round, which was impressive. It was an accumulation stoppage, but stoppage nonetheless. She's a very spiteful puncher, is Nat Dove, and yeah, she's young, so there's gonna be a lot of upside in her future. But there was also Jasmine Ortega against Lynn Sandstrom, who I wanted Lynn to win, if I'm gonna be honest, but I knew she wouldn't. I thought that it would go the distance though. I did predict for Jasmine Ortega to win on points. She did one better and she got a 3rd round stoppage. Now, do I think that the stoppage needed to happen? Not really. I feel like Lynn was covering up and blocking a lot of the shots. She was occasionally, throwing back as well. But ultimately, when you do get under a sort of a barrage and you're just kind of getting pushed back moment after moment, it kind of happens. And so Jasmine Ortega got the victory. She holds on to her WBA title. I don't know who's going to be next, but I do hope that Liana Cruz gets next dibs on that title shot. And then we can kind of see if Jasmine deserves to be champion, because you guys know how I feel about how she actually won the championship in the first place. That was like the mother of all gift decisions that I've seen in a long time. Very, very long time. Jermaine Ortiz was also on the card. Got a TKO victory against Amberix Batista. I didn't see that fight, but that was also on the prelims. I don't know how much to take from it though, because Jermaine was about 143 pounds, and Batista was only like 138. So there was a bit of a weight discrepancy between the two, but Jermaine Ortiz back in the good books, like 22-1 now as a pro. Let's see if MVP can push him where maybe Top Rank didn't. Yeah, I didn't. Now I started the card, and I saw all of the fights, but I fell asleep throughout all of them this morning. So there's none that I saw all the way through, and I've gone back to rewatch all the way through. But the Chris Avila against Aliel Perez fight, which started off the main card, that was just a fun scrap. It ended up with Perez winning a unanimous decision. But it's just a fun fight to watch. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. Lucas Bardi against Roger Gutierrez. Lucas got a unanimous decision against Gutierrez. Now, he's not anything special, but Bardi did what he needed to do, and he's gained some additional experience, especially from that last fight he had. So congrats to him. Stephanie Hunt against Paulina Angel. Now, Stephanie got dropped in the first round, and she got cut badly. I think it was in the fourth round by I think it was a, it might have been, I think they said it was a head clash, but I know there was some shots that went in there, so I'm not quite sure which one. But she won the fight at the end of it. Now, the scorecards were 98-91 across all three of them, which I thought was very, very wide. I didn't think it was the case that Angel only won one round, but I wouldn't have given her more than three. So it is what it is. Like, the right person still won the fight. They had Holly Holmes doing commentary, and the plan is obviously for her to face Stephanie Hunt next, and then whoever wins that fight, I guess, will go into unification with the other 135 pounders that they have in the division. We know that obviously Caroline Dubois is one of them, Terry Harper's the other, and Beatrice Ferreira's the third. So I'm pretty sure that whoever wins this, the next fight for them will be a Terry Harper unification, seeing as it doesn't look like the Caroline Dubois fight is happening with her at this time. So yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and see about that. Then, fight of the weekend. Yoenis Tellez against Abass Baraou. Now, shout out to Abass Baraou. I predicted that Tellez would get a decision. I thought it'd be a split decision, personally, but I thought that he'd get consideration of it. But Baraou said, no, I'm doing road warrior settings. And to be honest, I should have known from the Sam Eggington fight that this is what man was on. But he just showed himself to be bigger, stronger, more durable, smarter in the ring, and ultimately just wanted it more than Tellez. And look, Tellez with, I guess maybe that something that they label with a lot of the Cuban fighters is they don't have high work rates, because they try to place everything on sort of speed, precision, power, and basically managing and controlling the pace of a fight. When they're not able to control the pace, they start to burn out a bit quickly. And I think that's what happened here with Yoenis. Like, he managed to make it to the last round, but he was getting beaten up pretty badly from that round 2 onwards. He was coming back. Yes, he was landing some big shots of his own on Baraou, but he just wouldn't be denied. And ultimately, just within the combos themselves, he was just being the busier. Now, funny enough, going into like the 11th round, they only had about 2 punches. I think it was only like 2 punches difference landed between the two of them, even though Baraou threw like 100 and something. I think it was like 100 punches more. So his punches, just a lot of them were maybe being blocked on the arms or not necessarily getting through, but just the activity was enough to keep Tellez holstered. But yeah, it went down to the 12th. At that point, sometimes you thought it was a bit nip and tuck. He was like, well, Tellez being the hometown fighter, there's a chance that he could be getting a couple rounds that, that were close and competitive. But no, it turned out that Baraou got all the consideration for all the close rounds. But even without that, he decided, I'm going to take this out of the judges' hands and I'm going to drop you. And he dropped Tellez right in the last, it was like the last 12 seconds of round number 12, which basically just sealed that round for him and stopped any possibility of there even being like a draw or on one card, or making it a majority decision instead of a unanimous one. But yeah, Baraou, shout out to him. Seen him fight a couple of times. The Eggington fight was my first introduction to him. No, sorry, the Jack Cole K fight was my first introduction, but the Eggington fight was the one that really brought him to like the forefront of my of my thought process and my mind. And yeah, he's now the interim WBA 154 champion. So on September 13th, as soon as Terence Crawford steps foot in the ring against Canelo Alvarez, he's going to be basically stripped of his 154 title. and Baraou will be elevated to full champ. Now, considering he won the interim title from the interim champ, look at elevation. You know me. I feel like you should have to fight for the vacant belt in the ring instead. But his next fight will be against the next mandatory in the queue, who apparently is Jamel Charlo. I guess being former champion in recess. So I guess that can be like the time when you win the belt. I guess we'll wait and see. But yeah, shout out to Abass. Then lastly, there was Yankiel Rivera, who used to be on Matchroom. I don't know if he was let go or the contract expired and they chose not to renew. I guess Eddie felt like he didn't really have much use for the smaller weight classes, especially after Sonny Edwards retired. So yeah, but I predicted he would win a unanimous decision, and he did. No, sorry, he didn't. It was a majority draw, but he did win the fight. Like from what I watched the bulk of this fight, and Rivera definitely won the majority of the rounds to win this fight, in my opinion. So yeah, in my opinion, the draw itself wasn't correct, but ultimately it happened. I'm not gonna cry about it. You know, maybe they can run it back. If not, they do something else. But in terms of an actual card for MVP, it was a good showing. It was their first proper full fight night card, and I enjoyed it. I enjoy their prospect cards as well. They do have good matchmaking on the MVP show. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what they do next. That will be the weekend wrapped up in itself. Apologies, not really as fluid as I usually do, but again, these weren't the big cards that people know a lot about. But hopefully you'll watch a couple of these fights or the highlights, get familiar, and at least follow some of these people on their journeys moving forward. With that being said, thank you guys very much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. I'll see if I can get some content out for Bank Holiday Monday. No promises, but I'm gonna try. But with that being said, yeah, have a great evening. Enjoy your night. Hope you guys have a good Monday, whatever you choose to do, and I'll catch you in the next one. Until then, peace.